Hi, thanks for tuning in to The Doctors today. We've got a great episode planned for you today. We're going to talk about the effects of radiation because of the recent Japan disaster. There are different types of effect of radiation. You have long-term effects and short-term effects. Short-term effects can occur anywhere from minutes to weeks after the exposure. Long-term effects are normally ones that appear anywhere from months to years afterwards. We have a special guest today who's done a lot of research in those areas, and we'd like to welcome her. If you would please give her a round of applause. Let's welcome Dr. Rad.
Hi, Dr. Rad. How are you doing today?
I'm good.
I guess we can start off with, can you tell us what kind of research you do?
I've studied different groups involved with radiation exposure, such as the first medical workers, the atomic bomb survivors, the uranium miners, and radium watchtowers, painters.
Well, that's pretty interesting. Based on your research, what are some of the short-term effects of radiation, and how much would it take to see those effects?
Well, a substantial dose of ionizing radiation is required to produce biological effects as soon as, the person's irradiated. The severity of these effects is dose-related. So high dose effects include nausea and fatigue, blood disorders, fever, and it also can include temporary or permanent sterility in males and females. When the whole body is exposed to a dose of 6th grade of ionizing radiation, many of these manifestations of organic damage occur. These early somatic effects are called acute radiation syndrome.
Okay, so acute radiation syndrome occurs in humans after whole body reception of large doses of ionizing radiation delivered over a short period of time. Data from epidemiologic studies of human populations exposed to doses of ionizing radiation sufficient to cause this syndrome have been obtained from atomic bomb survivors of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Also, the Marshall Islanders who were inadvertently subjected to high levels of fallout during an atomic bomb test that was not actually supposed to go off. There's the people from Chernobyl in Russia when Chernobyl blew up, and also radiation therapy patients from the early half of the 20th century. Today we have with us a survivor of Nagasaki, Miss Tanaka. The pattern of the kimono she was wearing when the bomb went off was imprinted on her shoulder, and she still has that with her today. And we have a picture of the pattern of Miss Tanaka's back. And if you would please welcome today Miss Tanaka.
Hi.
Well, it's been only recently that I've begun to talk about my life as an atomic bomb survivor from Nagasaki. The reason why I've kept silent for so long is because of fear of stigma and discrimination. For the public, there is the image that we are dangerous to others because we're contaminated with radiation. So my mother never told me I was a survivor. She never talked about the fact that she and my older sister are survivors also, and they have effects from that. And I was 1 when that happened, so I had no recollection. I was sleeping at the time, so I had no recollection of that. It wasn't until I was about 20 that my mother told me to go apply for free medical care. That's when she told me, and I was married then, and I told my husband, and my husband told me not to tell anyone else because that's one of the biggest fears among Hibakusha is not being able to get married. Normal Japanese do not want to marry us because they fear our children will not be healthy. So I've kept it for so long, now I'm coming out with it. I hope it helps.
Well, thank you so much for that recount, Ms. Tanaka.
Thank you.
Thank you for your...
And this is the picture of Miss Tanaka when she was 20 years old. You can see that she was only 1 when the bomb went off, and you can see that she still has the marks from the kimono she was wearing when the bomb blew up.
Now, Dr. Rad, can you give us some examples of the forms of acute radiation syndrome?
Sure, there are 3 forms of radiation sickness. The first one is hematopoietic syndrome, which causes the number of red and white blood cells and platelets to decrease. And this occurs when human beings receive a whole body dose of ionizing radiation ranging from 1 to 10 gray. And the second one is gastrointestinal syndrome, and it's initially presented with severe nausea, vomiting, diarrhea for longer than 24 hours. And this appears at a threshold dose of 6 gray and peaks after a dose of 10 gray. And without medical support to sustain life, exposed persons receiving doses of 6 to 10 gray may die 3 to 10 days after the exposure. And the third one is cerebrovascular syndrome, and it affects the central nervous system and the cardiovascular system. And it happens with doses of 50 gray or more, and it can cause death within 2 to 3 hours or 2 to 3 days.
The radiation dose required to cause a particular syndrome and average survival time are the most important measures used to quantify human radiation lethality. The progression of each syndrome, the length of time required for the chain of events to occur, and the final outcome depend on the effective dose received. We call this lethal dose. And LD5030 is a way we signify the whole body dose of radiation that can be lethal to 50% of the exposed population within 30 days.
Now we will get to the late somatic effects. There are 2 types. There's the late non-stochastic somatic effects and late stochastic somatic effects. Can you give us some examples of each?
Yes. Cells that survive the initial irradiation and then retain a memory of that event are responsible for producing late effects. This randomly occurring effects are referred to as stochastic events. These effects have no threshold, they occur arbitrarily and are independent of dose and occur months or years after the exposure. Some late effects include carcinogenesis, cataractogenesis, and embryological defects. Cancer is the most important late stochastic somatic effect caused by exposure to radiation. Effects directly related to dose received that occur months or years after radiation exposure are called late non-stochastic somatic effects. These effects include cataracts, fibrosis, and sterility.
So somatic effects are effects that affect the actual individual who's being exposed. Aren't there genetic effects also?
Yes. The genetic effects occur when radiation damages the DNA in the sperm or ova of an adult. When these germ cell mutations occur, faulty genetic information is transmitted to the offspring. There is no total safe gonadal radiation dose. Even the smallest radiation dose could cause some genetic damage.
So does the radiation affect the embryo and the fetus?
The effects depend on the stage of fetal development. Congenital malformations occur between 10 days to 6 weeks. Skeletal abnormalities occur between weeks 3 and 20. And in the later trimesters, growth retardation and cancer induction can occur.
We know that in any stage of life, radiation can have effects that can be short or long term. We would like to thank you for tuning in to our informational episode on the effects of radiation. Thank you, Dr. Rad, for being with us today. Tune in next week for our radiation protection segment.